If you get to the end of this video and you think to yourself,
what was really impressive is check out these hot dogs.
I'd be very surprised. But if you're guilty of any of this, drop a comment below and let us know. I've been teaching woodworking for a long time now, and I'm always surprised when I have students in and I see the mistakes that they make. So today we're going to talk about those fundamental things that you could be doing better and how to address them so we can level up our woodworking. Table saw techniques, really important, but often neglected. Let's go. So this is what I see most of my students do. Left hand by the blade, that's a no-no. Here's another one. Your right hand following through past the blade in the middle of your piece. Yeah, don't do that. You can push your hand past the blade, but your hand needs to be at the back of your board. This is the way to do it safely. And if you want to be even safer than that, grab a push block and follow through just like that. Okay, this is the direction that you need to be pushing in. There's going to be downward pressure, against the fence pressure, and of course forward pressure. We're going to push it through, keeping your eyes right here because the blade is going to pull your material away from the fence, and you need to be looking at the fence to know if it's happening so you can correct it. You also need to make sure your downward pressure is sufficient because the blade will also want to lift your material up, and if you're not holding it down, it will throw the material in your face. So keep your eyes right there, grab a push block, follow all the way through, and get the hell out of the way of the spear. Okay, so starting over before you really have to. Most times that you've made a mistake and you think that that piece needs to be remade, it usually doesn't. I'm gonna give you 3 different instances here in class where something went really wrong and it ended up being one of the coolest parts of the project. Yeah, roll that footage. This is my friend Howard. Howard made this beautiful settee in class last week with us, and he accidentally milled his backrest a little bit too thin. Is he gonna remake it?
Hell no!
We're gonna go over to the bandsaw, we're gonna resaw it, open it up, and inlay a beautiful piece of ash that gives it a very subtle, beautiful accent that actually matches the splines and the tenons that come through on the front legs. Really cool detail. And most importantly, he didn't need to start over. So this one was not an accident, but this could help you anyways. If you cut a tenon and it's a little bit too loose inside of the mortise, instead of starting over, cut a slot inside of it, make yourself a wedge, and caliper it out so that when you push the wedge all the way in, the tenon is slightly bigger than the mortise. This way, when we put a little bit of glue on it, we put the tenon inside of the mortise, we tap it in ever so gently, the tenon spreads, and it seats beautifully inside of the mortise. This is my friend Teresa. She took a chair class a while back and she put in this badass little inlay right there. You see that? It's really cool, right? Well, that was actually where 3 dominoes came through the face, and instead of remaking the backrest, we decided to make it an accent. And I really, really dig it. It came out awesome. Taping your joints. Come on, I'll show you. Anytime you're gluing up a joint and there's going to be a hard to reach area with a sander where your sander might hit the edge of the other wall, add a little blue tape so when the squeeze out comes out, you can easily just peel it away and you don't have to worry about trying to sand that area. Stickering your material. These are 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch hardwood stickers that we make out of scrap material, and a lot of people either don't understand how important it is, or they just get to the end of the project and they're feeling like they just want to go home, they've had a long day, their back might hurt, and they choose not to sticker even though they know they should. I don't know if people realize how bad this is. We're in Arizona where it's really dry, so we don't have a ton of movement, but anywhere where there's more humidity, it's going to be even worse. So always remember to sticker your material. It's very, very, very important. So the reason why stickering your material is so important is because you need air to be able to flow on all sides of the board. This may seem like it's not a big deal, but if you have air only flowing on one side, the board is going to warp, I promise. The biggest one that I've noticed out of everything is sanding. Everyone thinks they know how to sand, but most of them don't. So the first thing that you need to do is get yourself some nice sandpaper. Katz Moses has a great video that covers sandpaper extensively. I'll leave a link in the description for anyone interested in that. 80 grit is the most important one. You're going to spend a lot of time here removing any imperfections from your wood. Once you're done with 80 grit, it's going to leave some scratches behind. It's tiny little swirls from your orbital. Every grit is going to leave these behind, but as you get higher through the grits, these get harder to see. In between grits, make sure you blow off your piece so that any sand that got left in the pores doesn't get carried through with the next grit. The purpose of each grit is to remove the swirls that was left behind, the scratches that were left behind from the previous grit. Now that we are all the way to 180, I'm going to put 220 grit on a sanding block, and we are going to sand with the grain. If you do it this way, you're going to end up with a perfectly sanded piece. Biggest tip, slow down. Sanding is not fast. If it's fast, you're doing it wrong. So I always feel like ducking my head whenever I hear people say, don't buy expensive tools. I honestly disagree with that. From a deep fundamental level, I think you should buy expensive tools. Now this doesn't mean that you should go and accumulate every tool that was ever made, but when you need a new tool, save up and get a good name brand one. And if you need money, sell it. If you need a new machine, buy a good one. If you need a new set of chisels, buy heirloom quality chisels, even if that means you're buying one at a time. And if you're buying a new shirt, buy a William Douglas Co. shirt, support our channel. Here's a fun fact. In most of my classes, usually the person with the most experience usually makes the most mistakes. Why do you think that is? Drop a comment.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. We really hope these tips help you. Patrons, you guys rock. Really appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.